When I was younger, we frequently visited my grandparents around the holidays, even though we didn't live in the same town. My aunt lived 2 houses down from my grandparents. The lady in the house was creepy. She was a large woman, over 6 feet. She wore logging chains around her neck, a dress, and work boots. The only time I remember seeing her outside was either in the garden out back or when she was washing the outside of her house, scrubbing the actual building. She did this often. During these times, she would yell at us kids and call us all kinds of things. She would tell us the devil would be coming for us. The adults told us to leave her alone and avoid her. We would run the distance between my aunts and my grandparents because when you passed by, she was watching out the windows. It was creepy and we never went alone. One Halloween, one of my cousins dared us to trick-or-treat her house. I remember how scared I was, but I didn't want to be a chicken. Plus, I was going with a group. One of us rang the doorbell, and there were a lot of banging noises inside the house suddenly, like doors slamming. When she answered the door, she had a severed head in her hands, and we all went screaming. The adults told us it was a Halloween prop, and we knew we shouldn't have been bothering her and deserved to be scared. About a month later, my parents got a phone call that the lady tried to kill my aunt while she was bringing in groceries and had my young cousin in her arms. The lady had one of them rope saws and had come up behind my aunt with it. She put it over her head and around her neck and proceeded to saw. My aunt naturally flipped and started kicking the door. My uncle came and beat the lady down with a fire poker. The police investigation revealed that the woman had been digging tunnels under her home, which were coming up under my aunt's, my grandparents', and another neighbor's house. She had been bringing the dirt up and putting it in the raised beds of the gardens. She also had a shrine of some sort underground, which had a few severed heads around it. My aunt survived, by the way, but she has a long scar across her neck. When I was a freshman in college, I was on a film shoot near Barstow on Route 66. We were shooting on the property of the cafe, known for the film Baghdad Cafe. This property had an abandoned motel attached to it, which is where we were shooting this unbelievably bad horror film. The motel floor was full of papers, something I initially figured was a relic from the past, while the motel was actually doing business. A while into the shoot, we started picking up the papers and reading them. They were handwritten letters from the 70s, perhaps never sent. They were addressed to dozens of different people, starting out normal, but going on to describe some really, really fucked up things. This was a guy who literally had some demons. He kept talking about how they were watching him. The handwriting also got more and more messed up as we assembled the letters chronologically. Meanwhile, outside the motel there was a storage container with "Keep Out" sprayed painted on it. Naturally, we were curious. There was a hole inside, and someone reached in and pulled out some documents. Among them was a letter on government typeface, I think it was the VA, telling the person who wrote those crazy letters that he was unknowingly a participant of some tests of hallucinogenic substances while he was in the army. This whole time, there was a room in the abandoned motel that was sealed off that we were strictly forbidden from entering. All the windows were covered by plywood and the door was barricaded shut. It smelled like death. Seriously, the worst smell I've ever encountered in my entire life. So my mom remarried about 2 years ago. My dad died when I was 12, so she had been widowed for over 10 years. This new relationship was very whirlwind with them meeting, dating, and getting married within 3 months. She moved into his house in upstate Virginia, and I invited my fiance to spend a weekend with her in her new home getting to know her new husband. My mom's new home was pretty isolated. It sat on a few hundred acres of woods and was very picturesque. I was nervous about getting to know this guy, but really trying to make the most of it. Over the course of our first day there, though, I felt more uneasy. I didn't think it was weird, just silly. My mom's new husband was being very welcoming and friendly. We were being made to feel very at home, yet still couldn't shake his oppressive feeling. I finally chalked it up to me being more upset about my mom getting remarried than I was willing to admit to myself. We spent most of the day wandering outside since I felt worse when indoors. That night, my fiance and I showered together. When I turned my back to him, he stopped talking mid-sentence and asked, "What did you do to your back?" Well, nothing. Why? You have a large bruise on your back. I hopped out and tried to see it in the mirror. I got back in and we finished showering in silence. Then it was off to bed. The one window in our room looked over a pitch black, empty field, but I couldn't sleep until I hung something over the window. I felt sure that otherwise someone would watch us through the window. The next morning, I had a complete meltdown. I woke up and just couldn't stop crying. I told my fiance we had to leave. He tried to calm me down by telling me all the things I had been telling myself. My feelings of anxiety were just a result of seeing my mom with someone. The longer I spent with them, the easier it would become. But I just had to leave. It was only Saturday morning and we were supposed to stay until Monday, but I felt completely hysterical. I knew I was on the verge of a panic attack, and my only concrete thought was I had to stop crying long enough to make our excuses and get the hell out. We did. As soon as we were on the road, I felt like a weight had been lifted. I was even feeling embarrassed for my behavior, hoping that I hadn't insulted my mom's boyfriend by leaving early. Then my fiance broke the silence. That bruise on your back. Did you get a good look at it? I had. It looked like someone had touched the middle of my back, with fingers spread wide, with their hands at a tilt. I want to make it completely clear, no one had touched my back the previous day, especially not hard enough to bruise me. Cut to 3 weeks later, my mom comes to visit me. The entire time she's hounding me to come stay with her again. After finally trying to change the subject for the 5th time, I level with her. Before I finished telling the story, her face was as white as a sheet. She tells me she has been feeling the same way in the house. She hates it. She wants them to move as soon as possible. And the real kicker, her new husband's previous wife shot and killed herself right outside in the same field our room window overlooked.